Hi, I'm Brittney Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. So happy to be here yet again on a lovely Monday with you. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm your host, Brittney Ashley, and we're actually pre-recording today on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. I know a lot, can't even speak today. I know a lot of you. Let's take a break for a minute are wondering, where is Brittney? Haven't been live in the last few weeks. Been a little bit crazy here. We're getting into school, and some in the States I know have already started school already. So I just feel like we're in that kickoff of the craziness, but I promise you we'll be live soon enough so we can have your questions and intakes. However, we are pre-recording with the lovely Michelle. I'm so excited to have Michelle on today. Michelle has so many great backgrounds in marketing and branding. With 2 decades in the creative industry, Michelle is a powerhouse in branding and design. Her career spans roles as an art director at a marketing agency and a creative director at a university. She is also a co-owned the award-winning studio. How do you pronounce that?
Getzcreative
Photography for over a decade. I want to make sure I'm not saying anything, so I don't want to send anyone the wrong way.
No, it's fine.
Michelle's expertise in managing brand identities, including high-level design, concepts, and leading creative teams, has earned her numerous awards, which is amazing. And I can't wait to dive in more. And that's also, too, why we're here today with Michelle. We're going to be talking about an event that she's putting on that I'll be joining as well. But we'll dig into that a little bit deeper because we have a full hour of Michelle. So let's get started on how you started, Michelle, and your journey so the listeners can get to know you a bit more.
Well, it started even in high school. I was taking art classes and just interested in art. And so a natural progression was to do design. So I went to school for design. And when I graduated, I started right into working in an in-house design agency. And back then I was doing design work, but I was also doing creative work as far as writing because I was doing interviews and writing for their magazine. So I kind of got a broad spectrum right there. And I enjoyed writing. So it goes a lot with marketing, and you can write concepts for ads and campaigns. So it's very beneficial. I did that, and my goal was to be a mom and get pregnant. That didn't happen right away. So I just kept working, and my husband wanted to start a photography business. So we started a photography business in 2004. And back then there wasn't a lot of creativity happening in the space of engagements and wedding photography. Mm-hmm. So that's really what we brought to the space. We thought outside the box, we created concepts for couples, and we did a lot of abnormal things, so to speak, that you see a lot right now, like taking pictures on train tracks and taking couches out into the field and things like that. Yeah. So it really developed from our creative background because he has a creative background as well. So in the photography, we, of course, were branding ourselves and working on these concepts and doing lots and lots of editing. So we did that for quite a bit. We owned the business for over a decade. And then I moved into working at an ad agency, a marketing agency. And there I was able to help clients with their branding, to do online advertising as well as print advertising and printed materials, brochures, trade shows, all those kind of things. So it was just sort of an umbrella. And from there, I stepped into having my own business. and doing it on my own, focusing on helping clients with their design work and also branding elements of that as well. And I also do pottery. So those are kind of more of my creative outlets. They keep coming out, I guess. So I make whimsical pottery and functional pottery, and that's just a lot of fun. So I think the mainstream is just creativity. It's just been there the whole time and just keeps popping out in different areas.
I love that. I find I go ebbs and flows. I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday of like, I can tell when I need to be in the creative space when my brain just can't think strategy. I do love doing strategy. I do strategy calls. I do all the things. But some days where it's just kind of that outlet of being creative, and like I love to do website development. I like the one-off projects or like the branding documents or doing brand logos or all the things. Like I'm like, oh, it's like my realm bit, and then I kind of go away a little bit. But marketing is like my true like essence where I started in university. I have my BBA in marketing communications, and I actually just did a little post about this. Some of the listeners who might be new here, or if you've listened in the past shows, I do talk about a bit of dyslexia, and I struggle with dyslexia, and I didn't know how to read or write for the longest time. And however, marketing, and that's probably where the creativity comes from. I'm like such a visionary. I can see it, and like I love to create. So the marketing communication piece like has always been ingrained in me, but even though I'm doing like other things in between. But going back to the photography, like I love that you explained that a bit more. I find that it has shaped over the years. I love how much it's transformed and seeing where it's used to be to where it is now, because I feel like photographers are having so much more fun with it. I felt like back in the day, everyone felt like they had to be put in a box.
Right. For sure. That was my husband's actually brainchild when we went into it, where he wanted to, his initial idea was to blend photography with art and create something that is actually what's happening now with AI, where it's creating all kinds of crazy cool things. But what we did accomplish, and I think really we're on the cutting edge and leading people in the photography world, we were some of the first people in our area to be doing it, was that creative type of photography. One of the cool sessions we went on, and people would fly us different places or have us travel so that we could do their shoot there. And so one couple we took an engagement session for in New Mexico. So we're on the East Coast. So we flew out to New Mexico to this desert, and we were taking pictures of them in town with this graffiti art background. And then they had this really cool, like concrete structured dam with giant concrete elements. We were taking pictures there. And then we took an upright piano and we put it on a trailer and we drove around town and got to this desert area, which was mainly just flat open space with a couple mountains in the back. And we drug the piano off the trailer into the desert. Yeah, we were like just going above and beyond here to get these creative things. And we had them with a piano, like they were standing on top of it, sitting. And it had just rained, and we got 2 or 3 rainbows. It just happened. We didn't have to Photoshop them or anything. It was just perfect. So that's one of the examples of just kind of how we took it out of the box and got amazing images by doing something that maybe other photographers weren't willing to do. Who wants to drag a piano around and take it out into the desert? But the pictures were so epic. I mean, who had engagement pictures like that? So those are some of the things we did.
I love that. And I just kind of like touch a little bit more on that. Like, that's why I love bringing guests like you into the show, is just like, let's break those kind of societal norms of what should a photographer be doing or not be doing, because like, who are we to say? Really, at the end of the day, it's kind of, if you see that passion, that creativity, why not do it? Follow that dream, follow that passion, because you can make something so beautiful and not even know what you're creating. And so I think we sometimes get put into this box, we as individuals, as we grow up, as like all the things, no matter what, social media really does influence us. If we like to say yes or no to that, it does influence us. It's just a matter of how we quiet the noise of that. Really to step into like our own kind of greatness. So I love that you guys kind of like saw like that opening and stepped into it. Are you still then pursuing it? Are you still doing things on the side?
We are not. We've stepped out of that role and stepped into some other things and other directions. But I think the creativity continues, and it may come back. We'll see. But for the time being, it's put on the side. We had a blog. The blog is still up. It's blog.getzcreative.com. The blog's still there from all the pictures we did take, maybe and still inspiring people. But I feel like a lot of photographers have broken out of that normal where you have to stand still, you have to do this. And that's another thing just reminded me when I said stand still, was we would do family shoots and we would let the families know ahead of time, we're capturing your family where it is now. So if your 2-year-old is running out of the picture, yelling and screaming with his hands up, we're going to capture that because that's what he's doing. Like that's his personality right now. So he may not be facing the camera. We might have backs turned or upside down or whatever. And we really just try to share the vision of capturing the true, authentic family where it was with people. And that's why people came to us. So the kind of people that wanted the point and shoot, stand at the camera, everyone nice in a row, everyone smiling, wasn't really our client. So,
and that's kind of going circling back, like how pictures were taken back in the day of like, even if you think of like the old school pictures, like black and white pictures, everybody's just kind of like stacked and smile. And it's like, I have now a 3-year-old, but like we just did family photos not too long ago and it was just chaos.
Right.
We paid for like the mini shoot and I was like, oh, this will be great. But then we already started off on a rocky foot. We only have 15 minutes slot, right? And
that is many.
We had our photographer and she was doing back to back to back. And we got lost on the way, but we tried to get there in time. But my daughter thought it was a good time to do her makeup before going to the photos. And so I had to clean her up. My son didn't want to put shoes on. It just was like chaos. And then finally we got there. She was like texting me being like, you only have 10 minutes now for your shoot. I was like, I'm so stressed out.
Oh my word. Yes. And everyone gets so uptight and stressed and leading up to it that this has to be perfect and we have to have these ducks in a row. And we tried to give them things to play with and have props and things that could kind of distract the kids and help them. We would have wagons or balloons and sort of create concepts for those as well, because it helps the kids not be so distracted, helps the parents not be so stressed. But 15 minutes is a very short window. I know my husband would be like that. No, I can't, because he likes to get them warmed up. And then, It
was, I'm not gonna lie. Like I was even saying to my husband, I was like, well, like she does great work. So I've never not been impressed. But this one I was like, I don't even know. Like I was last minute because she was bringing a dress for me to change into too. So I was literally like on the, like running into the field wearing a over my head with the kids running. Like it was just chaos. And I was like, I don't even know what we got. If anything, I know we got one photo, good one, because she previewed me. And I was like, at least we got one. And then she sent me like over 200 photos. I'm like, I have no idea.
In 10 minutes.
I feel like I blacked out in that experience because I was so stressed out. But
if she's a good photographer, then she'll get something and you'll love it.
We're actually going to be changing out our wedding wall with the family wall and having that incorporated because it's time to update the wedding wall. But we've been almost married 9 years, which is crazy to think.
Oh, wow, congrats.
We're coming up in October. But back to just kind of the social norms that I like to touch on the show too, is that it's okay to start asking those curious questions. I think we sometimes get a little shy or get scared to ask those questions. I know for me personally, I always got told like, stay in your lane, kind of situation, especially with growing up with having dyslexia. I always felt like I couldn't speak up because I was already classified into a box. So I just felt like I couldn't rock the boat in a way to ask those kind of questions because I was already classified. I just made a post on this. I was classified as the dumb one. So why ask those questions? And so like, I love that I'm stepping into my fuller self this year or the last journey through my entrepreneurship journey is because I'm starting to ask those questions because they really are not dumb, but I feel that we may think that because of what we're told or just social expectations. And I think you can actually ask questions in a right way without offending people. It's just a matter of thinking of how you ask.
True.
So with the agency, I just want to go back to the agency. How is that working into what you're doing now?
So when I worked for the agency, it was more of a focus on food service. So that was new for me to get into that. But it was still varied enough that I was able to help the clients on different things. I got experience with email platforms and web design platforms and trade shows, which I hadn't done a lot of, except we did do trade shows with the photography, but it's a little bit different. So that was cool to have that aspect as well. I was able to work on a project, multiple projects actually, where I got to do naming for businesses or products. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that process. It was usually a little bit bigger group at the beginning, and anything goes, wild ideas would be thrown out there and people would be laughing. And sometimes my boss would include this one particular person, I think just to get the crazy, weird things that would come out of her mouth. So that process of creating a name for a product and then narrowing it down and thinking of the different aspects and we would even look at different languages, like how can this be said in a different language and can we tie that in? And that was super enjoyable as far as the brainstorming and creative process. I like that a lot. And then some of those I was able to, once we nailed down the name, I was able to then go and make a logo for it from the name for the product that like we just created these things and the pieces just fall in place. And it was more of a whole project and a whole solution. And so that was enjoyable.
I love that. I find like creating a name for a business or product or anything above the beyond, it's hard.
It is. It's really challenging.
Like to come up with creative dynamics. Like I don't even know. What did I even do? Like I just knew that I wanted a dynamic team. That's where I started it with. And then I was like, and then I'm like, I love to be creative. So that's where creative dynamics came from. And I remember researching, being like, who has the name? And not very many people did. And so I like pitch it to the ladies on the team. And I remember one being like, I don't like it.
Oh.
I was like, well, I like it. So I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, you can't please everyone. That is for sure.
And it's fit. And it's like, it's all like the whole premise is that we're a dynamic team that offers dynamic business solutions. So it seamlessly works. And I remember when I incorporated, the lawyer was like, I've never had an easy corporation. Like I was like, I want to incorporate today. And he's like, well, that usually takes time. And he emails me back within an hour. He's like, well, that was easy.
Nice.
A lot of people end up having the same name or whichever. And so they'll have to go back to you. And then sometimes you have to end up just taking like a number that's on file. And he's like, I've never had someone be like, this is my name. Let's go.
And it worked out. Yeah.
It was meant to be. You picked a good name.
Right. The process was seamless.
Right. But I would love to know your core values driving your branding and design that you're doing now, because that's kind of more of the realm that you're in. Are you more of like a sole prop?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I would say first and foremost is probably honesty and integrity. Like those are fundamentals just in my life in general. I want to make sure that I'm coming across honestly, that I'm telling people truthful things, that I'm authentic. Like this is me. I'm not one person over here and then one person over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that ties from my life into my work, which authenticity is a huge thing right now for branding in general and companies being who they are and making sure they're presenting themselves in a way that lines up. So that is key for any business. The other one I would say is efficiency. And I can't really help this one. It's just the way I am. I just do things fast. And I think it started when I was little. As a 2-year-old, my mom told me I was just like into everything and busy, busy, busy. And they had a t-shirt for me that said, "Here comes trouble." So I think I got it honest and got it early. So that has been something that I've always had. And it just has allowed me to, when I'm working on a logo or something like that, I'll do a bunch of sketches and just knock those out and just sketch, and then go back and look at what I want. So being able to work efficiently is super helpful in branding in any of these areas. Also editing, when I was doing photo editing, because we had to edit lots and lots of images.
Yeah.
And then lastly, creativity for sure. Like I try not to land on the first thing I pick or the first thing I design. Like I said, I like to do multiple pieces and look them over and choose, brainstorm about ideas and concepts for a look, or for like, if it's for a marketing campaign, well, what are the ads that we can do for this campaign, and what could the headline say, and then what could be the drivers or the thoughts behind these things. So I think creativity comes through in everything I do, from the pottery to the photography to the design.
And psychology plays such a great role in marketing. Because I couldn't realize, like I could have been a doctor by now, but I couldn't decide what I wanted to be after my diploma in tourism hospitality. And I was like, I want to go into psychology. And I loved psychology. So I did do it for a little bit, but I did end up pulling out and going more into the business aspect, marketing aspect, because that kind of what transferred from my tourism hospitality diploma. With psychology, I had to redo everything from start one. So I felt like I was going to be in school for even more 100 years.
Right. Yes.
There's great takeaways in psychology. Once you start to understand how psychology integrates with marketing, like I already know, like I am like, if you put me down the aisle, I'm one of those people. I'm like, yes, yeah. Even my husband's like, you're a marketer, and you know that they're doing this just.
Right.
Anyways. But yeah, I just love like how they all kind of work together, and just coming up with concepts and thinking of those, how to integrate them for clients is great. Do you work side by side with clients to kind of come up with these kind of concepts?
At first, yes. I'll get a lot of feedback from them as far as, like you said, when you were creating your name, you were like, well, I like to be creative. And so we need to know those things about clients when we're creating for them. So I ask questions. I try to dig a little deeper, ask things that they might not have thought about at all. Like, if you were a car company, what kind of car would you be? And that kind of gives me an idea if they're looking for a Rolls Royce kind of thing, or if they're a Jeep, they're rugged and strong, or if they're a sports car, they want to be fast, they want to be flashy. So things like that, questions that seem odd, can really give direction as to what the look and feel of their name or their logo should be. And kind of like you said, the psychology of what they're thinking and how they want to present themselves to their clients and their audience.
And I love to educate clients too, that a brand is always evolving. So if there's any new listeners just starting a business or in just on that kind of roller coaster journey, like I find like we get kind of segmented in a little bit of like niching, for example. I am a marketer, but I like to challenge the narrative that sometimes we don't need a niche, especially at the beginning of it, because we're still trying to figure out who we want to serve on a long scale. For me, I've never niched. I remember working with a coach and they're like, we got to get you to niche. I'm like, I will never. And they're like, I can't work with you. And I'm like, I can't work with you either.
Right. Not a good fit.
The thing is, it's worked for me. And there's a reason too why I never niched those. The whole premise of what we are. It's because I listen to the team, what they want to do, what industries that they serve. We technically have niche because we work with service-based businesses, but we work with a range of industries. But it's because everybody team member has worked in that specific industry. It's not just because, so it makes sense why I haven't fully niched. It's harder to market. That's for sure.
That's cool.
I'm not gonna lie on that piece. And even people have told me in the past, like, you really need to. And part of me, when you get those gut instincts, it's like, I know what you're telling me is right. But my gut telling me to do everything completely opposite, because that's how I roll sometimes.
Right. And you do have to do you. I think that comes back to the authenticity. Like, you have to be who you are. And if you're out of the box, then putting yourself into a niche box is probably not a good fit.
And it's worked in our favor. Like, we were able to survive COVID because we did start with the food and beverage industry, the event industry, like it all closed down, but luckily we still worked with real estate agents and we're able to ride that wave. So it's just it really have worked in our favor. But anyone listening, don't always take it depends on your situation.
Exactly.
But with the whole branding premise, we're almost halfway into the show. See, I told you it would go by really fast. I'll just make our little midway cameo before we go into talking about the event that that you're going to have me on. So as those just tuning in, welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. We're live on the United Public Radio Network, Can't Speak Today, and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 in lovely New Orleans. I'm really having trouble with words today. I think I need more coffee is what needs to be done on Friday that we're filming on, everyone. We're on a Friday / you're listening on the Monday. But it's one of those days. It's been a long week. It's a good week, though. It's the perfect pathway because we're also doing a rebrand. And so we can kind of hone that into the conversation, too, of like how those kind of interchange. But please tell us more about the event.
Okay. So on September 12th. Oh,
there we go. Your brand, your fortune.
Yes. So the event is called Your Brand, Your Fortune. And it is on September 12th. And the concept behind it is to help businesses to really level up their branding and marketing. We're even going to do some sales stuff, but the overall premise is branding, marketing, sales, growth for small businesses. So it can apply to any kind of small business or entrepreneur. We're going to have 16 experts on there, including Brittney. So we're going to touch on a lot of information. It's going to be a full day and there's going to be bam, 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 bam content. So really, really good.
For anyone listening, I have put the link into the show here. So I'll connect it with when we roll it out as well. But it's www.yourbrandyourfortune.com for anyone listening. But if anyone's looking and watching us, you can see it down below.
Awesome. Yes. And it's going to be live so we can have question and answers, and then people can get their questions answered in real time, which I think is key to building connection and community and growth, just to be able to ask a question when someone says something and get your answer.
Yes, I love that. And I think you and I talked about, like, so many people are bringing forward about being authentic and what that rolls into the marketing. And I know I chatted about that, but my spin on it is about imposter syndrome and a little bit on, and I'm full-fledged telling you all, like, I have had my journey, it's almost been 6 years, which is just bananas, but stepping more and understanding what imposter syndrome is as an imposter syndrome coach, and understanding the struggles that I have come and what I've faced and different past traumas that I've kind of overcome throughout my years, and realizing of, like, who's Brittney? If we can pull back all of the onions and who is Brittney and standing there. And so like going back to, like I was just saying, like the brand refresh that we're just doing, that's kind of what I did this year of like, what is Creative Dynamics? Who is it? Why did we start? And the big thing is the why. Like I didn't start this business out of just profit. It's so much passion behind it. It's to help moms work from home. It's to help women work from home. That's my big why. It's not just for me to make money. It's just like, that's the icing on the top of the cake. But the whole premise is to give back to community. I always give to charities. I always donate my time. I'm the board of directors of Female Wave of Change. I was on a board director of ICF. Like I'm constantly trying to be in the community as active as I can, because as somebody who worked kind of in corporate and tech and landscape, the one thing that drove me absolutely bananas is these companies that had all this money and they weren't wanting to give back to community. And I just could not understand it. And I was like, when I have my business one day, I will do this thing. So I just love trying to find different ways to give back. So like we have given back to mental health here on Vancouver Island. I've given to Autism Rocks. I've given to the residential school here in BC. So all the things. I'm always like, I'm not like just niching into one kind of charity. I just want to give back in different ways as I can and listen to the clients, to the team members, any community member that has been like, hey, this is a good idea and I'm in line with my values, I'll do it. But coming into the event, like this is the thing that I also find is that everyone has a business idea, which is really great, but they don't know where to even start marketing. And marketing is a beast in itself. And we have, unfortunately, social media as a noise of telling us all these things. And please don't hire a coach that they promise you that they're going to get you to 6-10 figures when you're just starting out. I will say I've also learned that. I just find that marketing, if you can, I always say, I like to educate anybody that I work with on the marketing piece, the strategy piece, all the things. So if you're just starting out as a business, and I know marketing is so scary, come to the event because there's so many different experts on the panel that will give you like tidbits, takeaways. Because I find when you're just starting out and you don't know where to market, or you've never started before, you try to do all the things. But the piece is trying to really make sure that you're in alignment to your values of being authentic to who you are, the business that you're trying to start, and starting from square one to make little strides. Do you have input there, Michelle?
I think that's really good advice. Really key. I think starting with a foundation of, like you said, who you are, what you want to do, what problem you want to solve. Because if you are giving a solution to a problem, then people are going to want what you have because you're solving a problem. Like you said about moms working at home, you're solving a problem. Moms want to be at home. And that was one of my inspirations too, is helping moms, because I've been a mom for almost 2 decades. I love being a mom. It's one of my highest values. And to me, what I do and working, I would prefer if that would revolve around being a mom and helping my children instead of vice versa. And that's me. And again, that's my authenticity. And that might not be someone else's. They might be glad to go into work and that's what they do. And they come home with the kids and then go back in. That's great. But to your point, finding out who we are and how we want to design our lives flows right into your business and your brand and how you want that to be expressed to the world.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I love that. And I find like I feel like I'm grilling social media a lot right now. But I just find, unfortunately, that if you look on social media, it's just like that pretty glass of like, oh, look at me, like pink glasses, like everything's shiny, everything looks great, but you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. And I think we need to remember that there's people behind the scenes. They have feelings, they have their own trauma, they have all these other things. They might look picture perfect on the front, but you just never know what's really happening. And so even too, like the premise going back into that is if you're looking for any kind of support for marketing or any kind of support for coaching to build your business up with marketing or whichever it is, make sure you ask like those curious questions before just signing the person, because social media looks pretty and nice.
Right.
Fortunately, you can make it look as pretty as you want, because there's so many Etsy templates out there that you can buy.
Yeah, that is so true. I think we don't really know, and you don't need to know everyone's junk, but I think seeing a successful business or seeing a business online, you assume that it's perfect and there's no problems and, oh, I want to be like that. But your journey is your journey. Our photography business was hard. Like, honestly, working together, my husband and I, was really challenging because we're very different. And his idea of what needed to be done and my idea of what needed to be done were quite different. So everyone saw this amazing photography company, and we were traveling even like out of the States and enjoying these beautiful locations. But it was a lot of work, and there were a lot of challenges that went into it that people who just came to us for pictures or just saw us online didn't see. So I totally agree that when you start picking someone to work with, figure out who they are, figure out kind of where they stand and how that meshes with you and their values. I'm wanting to coach businesses and help them through the branding process, but it's going to be a partnership. And I'm going to be asking them questions and working with them and finding out more about them. We're going to be working together. So you want to definitely make sure that it's a good connection.
Exactly. So if you're going through sometimes a website, so we have this on ours, is questions before I get on a discovery call with you. And I kind of, in a way, review it, and I decide yes or no if I'm going to work with you. And there's not usually like a hard no right away, but you start picking out the red flags. If you've been doing this for a while, you can kind of see a little bit of how they respond and the kind of questions that they provide you. One specifically of like would be like, yeah, I've had a VA. I've had like 50 now. It's like, first, for me, like I like to work with businesses from start to like forever kind of situation.
Right.
A lot of our clients have been with us since day one, and I love it. They're grandfathered in, they'll be with us forever. If they take a little pause, that's great, but you supported us since day one, so you're grandfathered in. But like, it's just like, I love to see like the long-term relationships and grow with that. So in like the pieces of building the business too, is thinking of how you want to work with the next marketer or brander or whichever you're trying to do next, and ask those. It's good for them to come up with those questions too, because I think it's so overwhelming for new business owners because they don't know where to start. But Google's free. Just put some questions in Google, or even the chat bot if you use the chat bot is great, and it can just give you some probing questions and just kind of have some and see what they say. I actually just had somebody outreach to me being like, do you know somebody on your team that knows Kajabi? Because I need to also do X, Y, and Z. And then I hired someone, but they don't know how to log into Kajabi. I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, well, that's a red flag. That's like a 5 red flags in one right there. If they can't even log into a system that they're supposed to know and assist you with migration, I unfortunately would get my money back.
Yeah, it's challenging.
But yeah, I'm so excited to be at the event. Do you want to maybe share a little bit more of the different topics? I know at a high level we said marketing, we said talk about imposter syndrome and authenticity. Anything else maybe that might spark some interest for anyone listening to come join?
Yes.
Below. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the event's still showing below for anybody that's kind of looking.
Awesome. One of the things we're going to talk about is creating compelling marketing that is focused more toward your audience, but not in the typical salesy way. I think a lot of times we think of we're selling a product, we have to market that product, we have to get that product out. But one of our speakers is going to cover the topic of actually selling to the values of the audience, to the values of the person you're speaking to, and not just trying to sell your product. So I think that's kind of a flip on the traditional sales aspect of things, and very, very interesting. I have someone else coming on that is not traditional marketing branding as you would think of it. And she's going to talk about human design and how that plays into our purpose. And then our purpose goes into our business and how that rolls out into the why of what we do in our story. So I think those are both going to be unique areas that aren't always covered in marketing and branding types of events.
I love that. Human design is just, so anyone's listening, there's quizzes that you can take to find your own human design, but I'm a, oh my goodness, manifesting generator.
Nice. Yeah, I'm an orchestrator.
So I'm the combo of 2 and 1. And I'm like, it makes so much sense.
Right. Once they start telling you like what that means, and you're like, oh, interesting.
Right? That makes so much more sense now. I went and did a tea leaf reading not too long ago. Tea leaf reading. She actually was a combo effect. She was tea leaf reading, palm reading, number reading, and I swear she was a medium.
Wow, that is a lot.
I know. And I was like, I love it. Because I got all the things into one. She was, and we only paid for like 15 minutes, but I was saying to my best friend, I was like, I feel like she was with us for so long. And he was like, yeah, she kept like turning off the buzzer and kept telling us all the things.
More time.
She was talking to me about my number and like also like my birth date and what it means. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Now, some of it I didn't fully agree. She says that I'm a know-it-all. I was like, oh, what's that? I guess in school I would always like just be sitting quiet, but I'd be like, no. But I was like, not really. I'd be scared to speak up, but I didn't know a lot. But yeah, but at the end of the day, like it was just interesting to hear that. And then the human design too. Like I was looking a lot more into it because it's just so interesting to hear, because those are actually coming more in the forefront too. There's somebody that I met along the way who looks at your numbers on how to build your business too, versus not human design, but your number design versus in the universe / your birth dates.
Right. Because I think if you are aware of those things, it can just possibly make things a little smoother or a little easier because you're working in the same path that your body, mind, soul, spirit's already working in, instead of trying to buck against that or do something opposite. If you're flowing with where you're already going, I think it's just going to make business and life easier.
And it really helps you kind of narrow in, going back into like the values / all of the things really. Like, so going back to like the / maybe we should preference like, what is a rebrand?
Okay. Yeah. So there's a little bit difference between a rebrand, a redesign, and a refresh when you're rebranding. The redesign is going to be basically the whole comprehensive thing. It's taking what you have and shifting colors and shifting imagery, and it's just a more radical change. It's probably something that you're going to do if you're repositioning yourself in the market, or if you are trying to attract a different audience, or if you're maybe trying to separate yourself from something negative that happened, which can happen in larger companies.
Public relations.
Right. A refresh is on a smaller scale. It's just like tweaking what you have. You're keeping your main identity. You're keeping everything pretty much intact. It's going to be a lot more subtle. And maybe you're just trying to modernize or update it and refresh as the name says. So example of that would be Burger King a while ago and Pepsi.
Yeah.
Burger King had that more like squarish logo and they went to the circle. It was still Burger King, was still very recognizable. The colors were still basically the same. They just sort of updated it, modernized it.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're doing with Creative Dynamics. It's not necessarily like a big shift. It's just, I was also trying to figure out what to do with my business coaching, imposter syndrome coaching. And I was like, I'm going to go do my own brand, have this brand and do both. But I kept coming over here to Creative Dynamics and I still was coaching over here. And I'm like, why am I like everything, no matter what I've ever done since I started Creative Dynamics, kept bringing me back. I'm like, why am I just pushing it so hard? And so the refreshes, we're just elevating and adding more services. I'm your business coach, imposter syndrome coach, but then we also have done for you services as well.
Nice.
And so it's just more of an elevated tweak with like the colors. Like I love my background, as everyone can see, my background color in here. Like I guess you call it turquoise.
Yeah. Like maybe like a sea green. I don't know. It depends on what monitor you have too. We found that out in photography. It totally depends on your monitor.
Exactly. But I'm like obsessed with this color. Like this is like literally in my house everywhere you go. And when I did my photo shoot, I never put 2 and 2 together until I saw the photos and was like, oh.
Did you have it in your photo shoot too?
Yeah.
You are so on brand.
I did not plan it, but my whole house is like little peaks of this kind of color. So my carpet pulled in nicely. Like I was like, this is obviously, it's telling me something. This is my color.
It is.
Drawn to this color, but then also black. So I have so really I still kept my colors the same, black, white, and this is the primary color. But really at the end of the day, we're just kind of elevating more of like the black hue in a way, darkness a little bit, and then this to kind of soften it with the white, but then just elevating a few services. Like that's the refresh. Right. And then and the thing what I was trying to do before too is take myself completely out and be in coaching, but no matter what, I'm the brand of Creative Dynamics. I've now realized it's taken me a long time, but I've now realized I am the brand. And so instead of just having a logo's great by any means, but I don't want to be considered like a corporate agency or anything like that. I still want that personal touch. You'll always see me I always joke with my clients, I'm like Big Brother. I'm always here, even if you don't see me, always watching. But that's my brand. And I was like, why am I pushing so hard to do this when it's naturally should still be me? So like, I just did like a full different social media outlook, and I'm the founder. Yes, here's my face. And then I wouldn't have built this business without my team. And so just being more of that kind of refresh versus just me behind the scenes. So it takes a while though. Like we're just saying, like a brand evolves over time. I've been doing this for almost 6 years for coming on it. And I'm constantly always learning, constantly improving my skills. And so it just makes sense to now the direction we're going. And I'm so pumped because I'm like, I feel like everyone's always like, you're going in so many different directions. And it's just like, I need to find my own direction.
Right. And that makes sense for you. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about, going with the flow and the brand that works for you, for your why. And to me, it makes sense to bring it under that because you're now offering something else to those people who also might need your other services.
Yes. I know you talked about being a mom. How has that kind of affected you to bring in building a business and your personal life, all the things as mothers do?
Yes. Well, like I said before, excuse me, being a mom was my highest and is my highest value. So I wanted that to be in the forefront. So even when we had the photography business, At first, when they were really tiny, I could bring them with me to things, but then I had to get all babysitters and things to make sure they were taken care of while I was on shoots. And sorry, transitioning that into as they got older and they went into school, then I was able to have more time. And that's when I went back to the industry, so to speak, when I went back into the marketing and I was at the firm. And I did that for a bit. And then when I went into actually being my own boss, doing my own work, I had done that before, kind of alongside in the background, but that became forefront. And what I loved about it was the freedom of my schedule to be able to be with the boys, to be able to do things with them, to be around. Like, even if I was working, I was there. And my husband and I talked a little bit about having an office or being in a certain place. And I was like, I actually love being out in the open with everyone. So currently we have a very open floor plan at our house, and my office is just kind of in the corner of the living room, kitchen, dining room, huge, area. And I love it because they're coming and going and I get to talk to them. I get to see them. But as they get older, I realized that what I loved about being a mom was more of mentoring them into young men and grown men who are going to be a benefit to society, who are going to, help and do good things, do great things. And it was that mentor aspect that I came back to as they grow and get out of the house. What can I do with that mentorship since I won't be so actively being a mom? And so that's why I'm transitioning and shifting into more of this mentor partnership with branding and working with coaching them through their branding, but then also, as you said, specifically with moms, coaching and working with them to help them start their own business or even just be a mom, and the struggles that we have as moms and the struggles that we have as wives and the struggles that we have with our finances and our decisions and our kids. And when they do crazy things and you're like, is this normal? Or what should I do with this? And he said this, where do I go with that? And it's can be really overwhelming for a mom. I know when my one son was 7, I think, he just told me he couldn't tell me he loved me anymore. He was like, I can't say I love you because I don't know what love is. And I, at first, was just like, what do you say to that? It was just really, so I tried, I was, okay. All right. So I just kept telling him I loved him. And I think he said thank you, or he would say, I like you or something like that. But I was just like, wow. And so this went on for a week or two. And we were talking one day and he was talking about this one boy and how he had helped him. And I was like, that's love. And when you're kind to your brother, that's love. And when you obey mom, that's love, mommy and daddy. And he thought about it and he was like, I love you, mom. And then that was it. So unexpected things like that can kind of just derail you or throw you off. And maybe I can help.
They're definitely, you think just when you feel like you've got the world, you have kids and then you're like, I don't know anymore.
And they're all different.
They are
different personalities. Even if you get one down, it's not the same.
I would say my daughter definitely has a bit of personality like me. So I would say if anything, she's more fiery, speaks up a lot more. I think I'm just starting to find my voice, but my aunt was like, she is like you. She just learn. You've given her that opportunity to have that voice. And so she's like, but she's just a spitting image.
That's so cool.
And I was like, this is probably why we're fire and fire when we're in the same house.
Yes.
And then my son is like, we're still learning. He's 3, so his personality is just growing. But oh my goodness, I feel like he's going to be one of those toddler that like escapes outside the house and we're all sleeping. Like he just wanders at night and we're like, what are you doing? Or in the morning at 5 in the morning. And like this morning he was downstairs watching his tablet while we're up like, like how
It's a real thing.
tablet? The kid's a genius.
Yeah,
like I put it up high. He somehow got to the tablet.
Wow. Yeah, it's a real thing. One of mine started cracking eggs in a bowl on the floor to make breakfast when we were upstairs asleep. So yeah, it's a thing.
It's like interesting, that's for sure. Well, we are almost at time, but did you have any last minute takeaways for anybody listening or any tidbits about the event? We'll circle back on the event.
Yeah, I wanted to just give some recommendations, I guess, like you were saying, for advice for people starting out, to try to work through some of those questions and develop a strong brand foundation before you jump into marketing, because it can really set you up for success in the marketing, which is so vast and it can be complicated if you have a good foundation. And then what that can do is allow you to be consistent across your marketing boards. If you know who you are, you know what you stand for, you have your messaging, you have your mission, your branding, your colors, your logo, all that stuff nailed down, and hopefully have some sort of guideline or package that if you're working with people, you can share with them. And that will help it stay consistent, which I think is super important. And a little bit of one of my pet peeves, I guess, because we have a gas station in town and the logo on the front of the building is different than the logo on the sign. I'm just like, it's not even consistent, like the two things you can see at the same time. So, and then being visible. I think the more you can get out there, the more you are visible with your consistent image, the more you are attracting that audience and that client that fits your personality and that fits the brand image that you're expressing. And I think that's key as well.
I also, to tap into that a little bit, I give everybody the A-OK to fire clients that don't fit within your brand or your values. Because I feel that sometimes we're so tied of, well, they're paying me, they're doing this and this and this. But we started our business for a reason. We started this journey for a reason. We didn't start it to work with people that are not nice. So I give you the opportunity to let those people go, because the good ones will come in. So you need to make more room for them.
Right. And it's frustrating and a waste of your energy to hit yourself against the head, hit your head against a wall with someone who isn't willing to do the work or isn't wanting to follow your instruction or go in the direction. And ultimately, like, it's their logo, you're paying them, it's their, I mean, they're paying you, it's their piece that they end up with. So it gets a little tricky if you guys are keep butting heads. So I think that is important.
100%. So the event is September 12th. Do we have a start time?
Yes, it is at 8 a.m. PST time, 11 Eastern.
Perfect. And then the link below here is still going, yourbrandyourfoundation.com. The link will be live on Monday when this airs live. So it shall be live.
It shall be live. Your brand, your fortune, because they're so tied.
If anyone, any listeners had any questions or anything like that, can't find the link, please send me a message and I'll send you the direct link. But with that, thank you, Michelle, for coming on the show. Thank you to all the listeners to listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. And a big thank you to United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And again, to all the great listeners out there. Next week, coming, we have a special guest, so please come in, listen live. That one shall be live. Here's hoping. So bring in your questions. With that, everyone, please remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable.